Geordies, you've got 1,000 coming from Liverpool, you've got 800 coming from Preston, you've got 400 coming from Bermondsey as well. So a brilliant fight card and a massive opportunity for Lewis Ritson. You know, it's a huge chance for him to move forward and get a shot at the world title. And once we start looking at world titles, then you do start bringing in St James's Park and other dreams that you may have had previously.
You mentioned St James's Park. Obviously, if Ritson does win this fight, do you think that is a real possibility?
100% for a world title fight. I think next week we got probably the fight of the year between Regis Progress and Josh Taylor so far. The winner of that fight, may even get mandated to fight the winner of this fight on Saturday. It is a WBA world title eliminator, and if Josh Taylor wins, then it sets up a huge domestic world title fight. And Josh Taylor against Lewis Ritson at St James's Park is that's an instant sellout for me. And by the way, Robbie Davies is a big draw in Liverpool as well, so huge opportunity for both.
The atmosphere the Geordies can create, do you think it'll be a very hostile environment?
It will be. Like I said, there will be noise for Robbie Davies Jr. I mean, he's got a lot of support, over 1,000 coming, making the trip from Liverpool, but they will be outsung and out-noised, if that's even a word, by the Geordies. And someone said to me earlier, it was quite a quiet atmosphere in here today at the press conference. I said, it's 12 o'clock on a Thursday. Wait till 11 p.m. on a Saturday night on the Tomb when that song keeps belting out that Lewis Ritson walks out to, and the atmosphere is going to be special.
Do you think the crowd do have a part to play?
Yeah, I mean, can be positive, can be negative. Sometimes you can lose your emotions. Sometimes it can focus you a little bit more. Sometimes if you're the away fighter, it can put you on edge. But I think both guys are mentally in a really good place. And I don't think they really wanted to exchange today because they both feel great. So it's just a case of the hard work is almost done, make the weight tomorrow, and then go to war on Saturday night.
Yeah, it is named Bad Blood. There has been a spat of words as such. Do you think it will come to the fore on Saturday night?
I just think they know enough now to know that it's irrelevant. Talking's irrelevant now. We've had the build-up. The place is sold out. They don't particularly like each other. They both want to win. But what's the point in burning energy? As Scott Fitzgerald said up there, I burnt so much energy in the Anthony Fowler fight. I felt shattered on fight day. So they want to make sure they peak on fight day. Both guys consummate professionals. Both guys had great camps. Both guys are ready to try and win this fight on Saturday.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
Eddie, sadly, obviously, Patrick Day lost his life yesterday. A sad time for everyone in boxing. I can't not ask the question, especially after the last couple of months with the amount of deaths that's been in boxing. How do we counteract that? Because you see companies like One Championship, the MMA organisation, they have a thing where a fighter cannot fight if they don't reach a level of hydration. Is there anything in your mind that we could put in place there?
Yeah, there's lots of things. I mean, we must keep evolving. I have to say that the sport of boxing has become a lot safer as the years have passed. Unfortunately, we're in a terrible spell where we have another tragedy in the sport of boxing. So we must not take the sport for granted, and we must continue to improve. One of the problems that we have is that the sport is governed by commissions who have their own rules. In the One Championship that you talked about, or in the UFC, you can almost make the rules up that you want. So it's not just a case of us turning around and implementing medical rules. That comes from the local commissions. But I do feel like the promoters, the TV networks, the commissions, the ABC need to get together. I feel like the British Boxing Board of Control are doing a great job. And there's so many things to discuss off the top of my head. Stuff around hydration, genuine weight checks. Where one of the issues at the moment is that we're having checkways, but fighters are making those checkways, which even isn't good for them. So if you've got a 7-day checkway or a 4-day checkway with a board, you're almost making weight, rehydrating, and then having to do it again on the Friday. The 10-pound weight rule, which is a rule that's actually in play in the Illinois Commission that came in. That's great, but what if you're not hydrating properly after the weigh-in? But then on the flip side of that, you might get someone coming in who's put on 25 pound against a guy who's put on 5 pound. So there are so many things, and also looking at more frequent scans in between fights, because at the moment your scan can last for a year. But you might have had a really tough fight where damage has been done and you don't get re-scanned. In other organisations, some people scan at the ring. Other commissions, now you almost get to a stage where New York, you see the doctors stopping the fight and assessing the fighters during the fight. There's so much stuff, but unfortunately, boxing will always be extremely dangerous. And we know the risks. It doesn't make it any better. And we also know the line that boxing saves many more lives than it takes. 100% doesn't make it any easier. It's a terrible, terrible sadness and tragedy of a guy. You've seen the response from the boxing community, how special this guy was. Good fighter, but better than that, a great person. I met him for 30 seconds of my life. I had such a great conversation with him on Thursday. He was so excited. He loved boxing. He was living his dream. He didn't need to box. He's well educated. His parents had money, but he loved boxing. He absolutely loved the sport. But again, that doesn't make it any easier. So we've all got to get together, continuously try and make it a safer place for the fighters, and don't take the fighters for granted. I'm talking about, promoters. I'm talking about TV. I'm talking about fans. Understand the risks that these guys take ultimately for our entertainment.
And one more question from me. Sticking on the MMA that I just said there. UFC President Dana White said he will be getting into boxing with the Zuffa promotion. He also said that he won't be recognising any of the top organisations, and he said he wanted to work with you. What do you think of that?
Well, firstly, I'd love to work with Dana White. I think he's a legendary promoter, very smart guy. Only met him once, and he couldn't have been nicer to me. So, great. I do think that, eradicating the governing bodies will cause a number of problems. He's done it from the get-go in UFC, and it's been hugely successful. Yeah. And that model is great for boxing. It does work. But also, don't underestimate the desire of fighters and broadcasters to win world championship belts. Like, if I created the Matchroom World Championship tomorrow, do you think that a fighter would want to win the Matchroom World Championship over the WBC World Championship? Of course not. Over time, who knows what's going to happen? But those belts have history. They have legacy. You watched your heroes win those belts. So as much as I don't always agree with the governing bodies, and sometimes they charge me too much money, some of them do a very good job. And by the way, some of the safety stuff that we talked about earlier is being implemented by them as well, particularly the WBC, with the weight limits, with the scans, with the drug testing. So good and bad. I understand that the frustration Dana's going to have is not being able to walk in a room and going, "You're fighting him on October the 26th, good luck." That don't happen in boxing, and that's what is so frustrating. Sometimes I want to be in Dana's shoes to make these fights where the fighters say they don't have any choice, but it's what they've signed up to do. You're told who you fight. You can't duck him or not fight him, or there's a promoter or a network getting in the way. So that's the good side of the UFC, but I just don't think that'll work in boxing because it's just so fragmented.